Today's topic, if you ever hear this episode, we are going against the algorithm. We're touching on AI.
Why, if you ever hear this episode?
Well, because we're talking about AI, and AI is like what all the tech bros and everything are working on, so, you know, it might not pick up on the algorithm.
So you're saying that like Zuckerberg and I don't know, all the other tech famous bros.
Yeah, the algorithm will just smother this because it's going to be touching on the pros and the cons of AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you know about AI, Yas?
I know very little about it. I know the last few episodes, Matt's been like, yes, it's taking the lead. This is very much a Matt is taking the lead episode,
You'll
okay?
probably be able to tell by the way this is going to go.
Yeah. So I can be your regular layman person who knows a little bit but not a lot. Essentially, I know that AI stands for artificial intelligence, not artificial
Insemination,
insemination,
like farmers.
like farmers. Depends on, your industry, but in this context, we're talking about artificial intelligence. I know that ChatGPT is one of the most common slash most popular slash maybe the first. It's definitely the first one I ever heard of. Um, AI, and that people use it to do lots of different things. I also know that there was a little period of time when people were doing all sorts of AI art, which I found was creepy and a bit strange. We're going to talk about that a bit more later on. I know that AI like summarizes things. So, for example, if you ask ChatGPT something, the difference between a Google search and what ChatGPT does is a Google search just brings up like a bunch of different websites and options for you to look at yourself, whereas ChatGPT will kind of pull all that information together and try to answer your question for you,
Yep.
but it is still using the database of what's out there, the knowledge that's there.
Yep.
And wait, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, everyone's bloody using it now.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell a slightly random tangent side story?
Quickly. Yep.
Yeah, it is relevant.
Okay.
I bought Matt an ancestry testing DNA kit for Christmas. It must have been lost in post. I mean, that's kind of the conclusion we reached eventually, but it took like a month and a half, 2 months, and it still didn't arrive. And I was trying to get help from Ancestry DNA and from Australian Post, I think it was, and all I could get was like these AI chatbots that were terrible. They were
I I
absolutely
I
terrible.
love how everyone throws the word AI in front of things because chatbots were around before they did generative AI.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. I thought chatbots were like always a thing,
Yeah, they have been.
but like I think, and again we're gonna go into this a lot more in a second, but like people's jobs are being replaced for AI, and AI is doing a shit job.
Hey! You're going overboard here. Calm down.
Like AI can't replace a human being, and in the end, long story short, the reason I found out it got lost in the mail slash who knows what happened to it, it might have ended up in China, is that I finally managed to get onto Ancestry during the opening working hours. I asked the AI bot to like transfer me to a real person. They transferred me to a real person who I talked to, and I finally got my answer within 30 seconds to a minute of talking to a real person. And it was just so frustrating that it was so hard to talk to a real person. Now I sound like a boomer.
Yep. Now, before we continue,
Mm,
we need to tease the audience a bit. You can't just outline everything we're going to chat about straight off the bat.
sorry.
They don't know. You mean to tease them a little bit to keep them hooked.
Sorry. Keep you hooked.
All right. We'll get into it. So we're going to talk firstly AI versus generative AI because they are actually two type of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the definitions here. So AI, artificial intelligence, is a broad field encompassing systems that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence. So actually the first AI, just so everyone knows, which was a simple AI, was built in 1950.
Oh wait, no, I do know that because you've told me this.
Yep.
It was
No, this is
there's
this is a different one.
oh, okay, sorry.
But yeah, no, so
I'm getting ahead of
yeah,
myself.
you are.
Sorry.
Stop it. Um so yeah, so AI's been around for a long time, right? Generative AI, which is now what we're seeing with ChatGTP, deep what is it? Deep not deep I want to say deep state, but it's not DeepSeek, which is the Chinese one. Um Yeah, so all those type of AIs are classed as generative, where you can essentially ask it for something and it will generate a response.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, generative AI is a specific type of AI focused on creating new content such as text, images, or code based on learning patterns from data. So this is what they talk about because there's a big part of it which is training AI,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll touch on a bit later on. Now I'm just getting into it because it's just the technical stuff. So a brief history of AI. The first AI that was developed, which was the symbolic AI, which was 1950s to about 1980s, which would essentially just be a basic symbol changing, which would just change symbols based on rules that were programmed into it, right?
What do you mean change symbols?
Like in the text, they would have changed the symbols.
Oh,
That's all.
like you.
A plus to a minus.
Oh, okay. Like auto-correcting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Autocorrect.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not that advanced, but yeah. Next up, fuzzy logic, which is the one that I know about
Mm.
because we did a paper on it. That was in 1965. This handles rules, but it deals more with the vagueness of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one was very strict on the rules. Every zero has to be A, for example, would be it. Fuzzy logic would be the example that we use is in air conditioners. So 30 degrees is classed as hot, 28 degrees would be classed as somewhat hot.
Mm.
And the machine would essentially calculate the logic and it would essentially calculate what temperatures need to be changed for optimal comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, fuzzy logic is in a lot of things, washing machines, dishwashers, rice cookers, because it calculates things like on weight and temperature and variables that can change.
Mm-hmm.
And then machine learning, which was from the 1980s and has just continued, which uses data instead of rules.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where generative AI comes in terms of training the trainings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some pros?
Wait, before we get into that, very quickly, you've made this point to me. Everything you've talked about just also proves that AI has been around for a while.
Oh, it's been around for yonks. It's just again, it's a buzzword
Yeah.
at the moment. That's why everything's saying AI this, AI that. We need an AI powered website. I mean, in reality, people aren't going to have a generative AI
Mm-hmm.
on a website because the amount of infrastructure needed to power that thing would be
Through the roof.
through the roof,
Is through the
and the
roof.
cost is through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. But I remember that's like a thing that you've said to me in the past, which is, AI is such a buzzword. People are just like losing their minds about it. I feel in the last maybe 6 months to a year, we've settled into it a little bit more. But I feel like when it first came out, people were like, oh my God,
I mean,
what is this
I mean,
thing?
look at all the companies. Even now, they're still trying to throw AI into everything.
Yeah, but like, again, it's been around for a while, right? So it's not a new thing.
Yep. Yep, it's been here. Yeah, that was the whole point of that. It's been here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
AI and generative AI are still the same field, but just slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Alrighty.
So, what are some pros that you can think of?
Yeah, now the pros and the cons. It is really smart. Like, I have not used ChatGPT much, I think, especially compared to some people, certainly compared to you, because you're doing a software engineering degree, so it's very helpful for you. But I've just used it briefly for like little bits and pieces, and it is incredibly intelligent and a very useful tool. I had a friend who asked it whether or not her relationship was worth fighting for, and she told me almost word for word what ChatGPT answered her. And it was great advice. Like, if you can't afford therapy, which, hey, that's true for most of us, I can't afford long term therapy, then ChatGPT might not be a bad alternative, except for the environmental consequences, which we'll talk about soon. But like, it actually answered some really good questions and in a way that makes sense and, like, kind of reflects it back on you. Yeah, I think
Yep.
it's really intelligent and really helpful. Um,
Don't look at my sheet.
that's really my main thing is that it's a good tool.
Yep. Okay.
That's the main pro that I can think of.
Yep. So pros that I've got on my list is that it's increase in efficiency and productivity.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're saying, the tool based thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'll help with innovation and discovery. So because it's learning lots of information through data,
Mm-hmm.
it can probably process, predict certain things, help innovation of some form.
Mm-hmm.
Improved healthcare. Now, I think I was talking to you about this, where like for
Mm.
example, using an AI to not be reliant on AI, but to help assist if something's wrong in AI. So, for example, with your work in OCT,
Mm.
if it could pick up raised discs and sort of highlight abnormalities in the back
Mm.
of the eye, that would be quite helpful for you, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Or the other one that I talked about was like a voice recognition AI, although that doesn't even
That's that's
necessarily,
that's happening.
yeah, as I say, that doesn't even necessarily have to be AI, I guess, but something to
Just
transcribe.
voice recognition. Yeah.
Yeah, but like some level of intelligence where it can actually do a good job of it
Mm.
because some voice recognition isn't very good. But like, yeah, if I didn't have to,
That's out there now.
yeah, if I didn't have to hand type my notes all the time and hand type my letters all the time, God, that would make my life easier. And yeah, I do know it's out there because the last time I went to the GP, they used it to type their notes.
Mm. Enhanced security. Now this is based on internet security.
Mm-hmm.
So because you've got the AI, well, because there's um, AIs in it, because it is an AI, it can make encryption a lot stronger, for
Mm-hmm.
example, so it makes it harder for things to be hacked.
Mm-hmm.
Improved education is the other one. So again, you could use it to form a proper education structure
Mm-hmm.
for people based off the most successful programs in the world, for
Mm.
example. So there's like a lot of, and there's more to it. There's a lot more
Mm.
stuff to it, but very briefly, I think they're probably the most important ones.
Mm-hmm.
Cons.
So the two main cons that I'm aware of, I'll brush over the first one because we're going to talk about it in more detail soon, but the ethical issues for creatives. So the fact that AI is being used to make like art, like paintings, drawings, and so on, and writing. And the second one is I know it's really bad for the environment.
Hmm.
So those are my two.
Not many people know about the environment one.
It's
I didn't know about it, but
terrible for the environment.
yeah.
The reason I know about it is because I follow a creator on Instagram called Matt Bernstein, and he shared about how much every AI search you do generates, like in terms of like energy consumption. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I tried to find it before, but I couldn't. But I was shocked.
Mm. Side note, I have that information, not per search, but in general.
In general, how much AI
Yep.
impacts the planet.
Yep. All right. Cons. Job displacement.
Mm-hmm.
So people losing their jobs because of AI.
Yep.
The ethical concerns,
Mm-hmm.
which you talked about. Dependency on technology. Now, this is really interesting because there's already a study that's come out to show that people who heavily rely on generative AI, they've found a decrease in their critical thinking.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting that we're still evolving based on technology. It's kind of like TikTok with people who use TikTok and their attention spans being less.
Yeah.
Like that's something that's been recorded. So that's another factor that we have to take into effect. What is this going to do to us?
To our brains.
Yep. Decreased inequality. No, that's not right, is it? Decreased inequality, decreased equality.
Okay, you want to talk on that a bit more? Oh, is this the whole Elon Musk's Teslas initially couldn't recognize black people?
Yeah,
Is that what you were trying to
yeah,
say there?
yep.
Yeah.
As Yasmin said, essentially because the target group that the AI was trained on, they didn't have enough black people in the test group, so they could identify white people relatively well, but they couldn't identify black people.
Mm.
Fun little fact.
And Matt is reading off a list off his phone. So if you're like, why did he say decreased inequality and then say that's not right? It's because he typed this out before and
Yeah,
he's reading it back and going, wait, what's
yeah,
going on?
that doesn't make sense. Lack of transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big one. So your privacy, your information, what's happening with the data, where they're getting the data from.
Mm.
There's a lot of transparency. Is there a bias in the information that's being given?
Mm.
For example, like I think it's called DeepSeek,
Mm-hmm.
that Chinese one. If you mention anything about China, it'll block the
Mm.
chat. Or Taiwan, I think it is.
And do you remember, like,
So it's
again,
fences.
yeah, again, when AI first came out, how everyone was doing those strange, like, AI images? Like, everyone was kind of putting their photos into AI and getting the AI to create, like, all of these, like, pictures of them that were kind of creative and artistic. Like what they would look like if they were an elf or a warrior or whatever, right? Do you remember that?
No, not really.
Okay, so a ton of people were doing that on my newsfeed, including people I like know, and like no judgment. But I remember something that was brought up was if you're feeding the AI your image, then that AI has your image forever. Now, there is a bit of an argument to be made in general that because we all put our pictures and our faces online, and this is why a lot of people don't like to put their kids online, that, you know, again, these social media algorithms, these, big corporations
Social media is the worst for it.
have our images anyway. So, is AI worse? Is it better? Who knows? I'm not smart enough or knowledgeable enough about this area to answer this question. But yes, the privacy concerns and yeah, where are these images coming from? Definitely something that we should be keeping front of mind.
Mm. And again, there's a lot more. I mean, like, there's another one before I said that there's a pro in security. The other con is security
Mm,
because because you're using AI to help process like hacking and that.
mm,
You know, it means it can probably do it faster.
mm-hmm,
So yeah, there you go. There's a list of pros and cons.
mm,
Now, I want to get into the tool versus replacement
mm-hmm,
aspect. Now, as we all know, in the IT area, there's been a lot of job replacements.
mm-hmm,
I do view this one a bit because, software engineer
mm-hmm.
doing that, finishing up. I started it before AI really took off, and now that I'm finishing it, AI's out there, so I'm a little bit worried about the job aspects. Lots of fun.
Mm,
But my big viewpoint overall is that AI should be a tool, not a replacement.
mm,
And I have seen some stuff based on that, of companies hiring non-technical people for like coding and that,
mm-hmm,
and then uploading their whole like username password database
mm,
by mistake for asking people for help, and then they've just compromised their whole company.
mm. So wait, they're putting all of their username and passwords into the AI accidentally.
Well, because the AI doesn't give you exact code, like, well, it can give you exact code, but it might not be the best code, so they might have a bug.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't fix, so then they copy and paste the whole code online, not realizing that they've put all the passwords and usernames for their system.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So they accidentally distribute their whole username and passwords onto the
Yep.
system. Damn.
Just onto the web.
Even I know that's not smart.
Yeah, so I mean, ideally, you still need people to know what's going on. You still need the theory behind it. You can't really just throw people away and then expect AI to replace the job because they're not going to do it as well because the human element makes it hard. If you want to chop and change, if you want to, like, if you're saying something that you don't necessarily understand what you're trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
like not being specific
Mm-hmm.
enough.
Like
Yeah,
the AI not being specific enough, or you
no,
not being specific
you're not
enough?
being specific
Like
enough,
when you're asking the AI to do something,
and you're
if you're
being
not being specific enough, the AI won't be able to give you a proper
yeah.
solution.
So you still need people to know how to use it. So I mean, it is a good tool, um, but as a replacement, it's not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Makes sense.
this will be a good little segue into your one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the Writers Guild's issue back in the day, the strike issue?
Oh, I don't know if I remember.
That was them using AI to create scripts.
Oh, was that what it was? I was going to say, was it to do with that?
Yep.
I know that the writers in Hollywood have done strikes like multiple times over multiple things
I'm
because,
pretty sure that was it.
yeah, they don't have a lot of job security. They often aren't paid very well, so on and so forth. But I actually do remember the most recent strike having something to do with AI.
Yeah, because directors were saying, well, we'll just get AI to write scripts.
Mm, yeah.
And that leads on very well to creativeness.
Yeah. I take great issue with AI being used to replace creatives, and I think as individuals and as a society, we need to be incredibly proactive about rejecting that. So if you want like a piece of art done, don't pay for an AI art. Go out and find an artist and pay them. Sure, it's going to cost you more, but if we have no incentive for artists to create art, if we don't support our local artists, there's going to be none of them left, right?
From an evolutionary point, that's what makes us quite special.
Mm,
Creativity is meant to be really good for us.
it is really good for
So
us.
why are we using AI to do it for us?
Yeah. Not it's supposed to be. It is really good
Yeah,
for us.
well, exactly.
Great for our mental health. I mean, back even, during like the caveman days, they found like paintings in the caves. That's how they know that even when we were lacking, all of these like basic survival things that we needed, we still found time to be creative and create art because it is so essential to our survival and to our general well-being as human beings.
Mm.
And now we have machines coming in to try and replace that. And first of all, it's never going to be as good. And second of all, like again, why are we trying to replace people in a place that's actually really essential for us?
Mm. Like I said, use AI more as a tool rather than a replacement.
Mm. I mean, we do have actually a pretty decent example of this. So when we first started this podcast, we were kind of again just playing around with Chat GPT, and there's a function on there with the
It's a
like
different AI.
fancy version,
It's a different AI.
but is it the version that you
No,
pay for? No?
no, you can still
Oh.
access it in the free.
But anyway, it like can generate, images and logos and stuff for you. So we thought, oh, let's see what it can do for this podcast. And it was so finicky and so hard to use. And I only half liked one of the logos it gave us. And then I spent 20 minutes on Canva and made what is, in my opinion, a pretty cool logo for someone who has no, like creative background. Like, it's not what I do for a job. I'm an optometrist. And I did it in like about the same time, maybe even faster, and got a better result. So I also don't think AI is really in a position anymore where it can replace artists, but I also don't think it should be. I don't think we should be trying to do that. And unfortunately, I think corporations are doing exactly that.
Now I'm going to step in for a second. The only reason why it wasn't good then is because it wasn't trained enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Studio Ghibli, do you know much about them in terms of the animation?
No.
So they have a very unique art style. Now, they've trained AI to do that art style.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why people lately have been generating a lot of images of themselves in a cartoony sort of look, all with the one sort of aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
which is Studio Ghibli's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where a lot of ethical dilemmas come in,
Mm.
because who owns the copyright to that?
Mm.
Copyright's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to. I ask AI to write me a story.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns, and the story is really good,
Mm-hmm.
goes off well. Who owns the rights to the story?
Mm. I don't know.
Because this has been a legal battle as well. That I think it was ChatGTP. So
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI's models were trained using. I think there was some of George R. Martin's books,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of authors'
Yeah.
book storytelling in there. So it's generated its own stories based on the way they write.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, who owns the rights to the story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Same with art, because it's got to be fed somehow. So if it gets to the stage where it's really good at art,
Mm-hmm.
who owns the art?
Mm. Yeah. 100%.
Um,
Like I said earlier, I disagree with it
yeah,
on multiple different levels. And the question of is it ethical or not, I think the answer is no, it's not ethical. And I think as individuals and as society, we need to reject this heavily. We need to not buy books written by AI. We need to not purchase images that are made by
like
AI unless absolutely necessary. I mean, there is a time and a place for all of this stuff, there's some circumstances, but like it shouldn't be something that we're consistently leaning on because if we do this, we're going to create a world where there are no creative people.
you know what? I just realized. I just remembered. There's an ad on TV now which is fully created by AI,
Mm-hmm.
or with the support of AI.
Mm-hmm.
The skinny mobile ad, like they openly say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's part of the advertisement.
Yeah,
The lady in it is like, I love Skinny so much, I let them,
clone me.
clone me and use AI to like, make this ad. And there's just like hundreds of her in this ad. It's
There's
actually
chaos happening in it.
yeah, it's a really stupid ad in my opinion, which I think is a bit sad because advertisement can be really smart and intelligent and funny and entertaining, but it's not. It's just an annoying ad, and yeah, like obviously this person like agreed for Skinny to do this, but I don't know. For me, that's not as bad as like ripping off an artist's work.
Mm.
But, and again, because obviously this person has agreed for Skinny to do this, she literally says that in the ad. But yeah, it is interesting how corporations are just leaping on this. And I think the biggest reason they're jumping on this is because it cuts their costs and therefore increases their profits.
Because they don't need to hire a person to do it.
And profit and capitalism is kind of the basis of so many decisions in this world.
But what's killing this
Mm,
world, essentially?
yeah, but at what cost?
Which I am going to get Yasmin to read this. Now, I've already got her to read this already so she can summarize it. I'm
Hmm.
going to give it to her. We're talking about environmental impacts.
Yeah.
Now, this is from MIT.
Mm. So, one of the biggest issues with AI is that it takes so much electricity to power the data centers that basically are used to run the generative AI. A data center, to give you a definition, is a temperature controlled building that houses computing infrastructure such as servers, data storage, and network equipment. For example, Amazon has more than 100 data centers worldwide, each of which has about no, not five, sorry,
50.
50,000 servers that the company uses to support cloud computing services.
So that'll be for all their websites, all their streaming sites, everything.
Hmm. But generative AI is a little bit different because it takes more power density. It's not just computing, but generative AI training cluster consumes seven or eight, sorry, times more energy than a typical computing workload.
Which is insane if you think about it.
Yeah, so 7 or 8 times what Amazon would be using, for
Yep.
example. Globally, the electricity consumption of data centers rose to 460 terawatts in 2022. This would have made data centers the 11th largest electricity consumer in the world between the nations of Saudi Arabia and France.
Can I just say
Hmm.
the fact that data centers are using more power than countries,
Crazy. By 2026, the electricity consumption of data centers is expected to approach 1,050 terawatts, which would bump data centers up to fifth place on the global list between Japan and Russia. That's insane.
crazy. I
That's
know
next year.
I'm just talking about power, but I do like this article is just talking about power, but I do also know that there's complications to like water supply and villages and all that because they need to keep the facility cool.
Yeah. Then there was a 2021 research paper from Google and the University of California at Berkeley that estimated the training process alone consumed 1,287 megawatt hours of electricity, which is enough to power about 120 average US homes for a year. And that's just again to train the AI. So not only is it arguably not ethical to use AI constantly for everything, it's also literally killing the planet along with everything else that we're doing as human beings.
Here you go. It also generated about 552 tons of carbon dioxide.
Mm.
Just keeping in mind, this is just the data centers. This has nothing to do with the with like manufacturing of the AI chips that are needed to make this.
Hmm. Yeah, so this is kind of the
Just the maintenance and running.
tip of the iceberg,
Yeah.
as they would say. So, yeah, I think that's basically all we wanted to talk about. I mean, again, the summary is AI doesn't suck, but it's also not amazing and revolutionary. I don't think we need to lose our minds over it, but we need to look at it with eye of critical thinking, just like we need to look
With
at
anything.
everything, right? And we need to think about the cons as well as the pros and not be replacing essential things like creativity.
Mm. I thought it'd be funny. I've got a couple of little AI facts
Mm-hmm.
or funny little stories that
Mm-hmm.
have happened that I've seen pop up on the news over the years,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought would be quite fun to say quickly. One of them is that they put a security robot in a mall. It lasted 2 days, then decided to drive itself into a pond. So it committed suicide, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
There was also, I think it was Facebook's early AI. They asked it an interview and asked what they thought about humans and said essentially humans should be put in cages like in the zoo for their own protection. And I think recently, I think I also saw an article that Musk's AI is speaking back to him.
Sounds about right.
So oh, and I also know that there was like an actual concern based off you in the US Congress about using AI in the military field
Mm,
because they were worried about the AI getting military plans.
mm, yeah.
So I mean, if they're worried about it, we probably should be too, just about our general information. I've probably already said this before, but also people are probably like, oh, so what if they sell my data or my privacy or whatever? Just keep in mind that with that information, it becomes easier for people to trick you with phishing
Mm,
scams
mm,
because they can tailor make it. So instead of being like, dear sir, madam, they could be like, dear Yasmin, so and so, we have tried sending a letter to your home address, blah, 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 blah. Please press the link below, so it makes it seem more legitimate than just a.
mm,
And also just like, your information gets sold on the dark web and all that kind of stuff. So
mm. Yeah.
just be careful. If people, I know that people think it's not anything, but yeah, it can be your personal information. Like imagine if they sold your banking details or they were
Mm,
able to do it that way.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
So just
definitely.
be cyber smart.
And unfortunately, I mean, I can't really speak on our current government when it comes to their view on AI because genuinely I don't know what their opinion is.
I know their view on privacy.
Yeah, but with the current administration in the United States and with someone like Elon Musk as, in my opinion, the puppeteer behind all of this, like you know, Matt was just saying before about like security and stuff and how, there's some concern for like military and all of that sort of stuff. So that's where you would think you would have a good government legislating and having some good safety protocols in place to avoid something going wrong, right? Like you foresee a potential problem, let's step in and let's stop this problem happening by using legislation. Again, unfortunately, I think the government that's in power in the US is not a government that is going to do anything like that.
No.
I think there's going to be no legislation for AI at all. So it makes it even more our responsibility as day to day people to be really conscious about what we're using, how we're using it, and so on and so forth. Again, we don't need to panic, and it is a really helpful tool in some circumstances, but I think we need to also just think about the long term implications
Yep. Yeah, and basically just think the more reliant you become on it, the more resources that it's going to require to run and operate more efficiently. So therefore, the more damage we're doing overall.
to the planet,
Yep.
to a planet that is already suffering.
I mean,
And on
if we could live on another planet, Matt, no,
and on that depressing note,
we don't want that at
all
all.
right, should we do a gratitude each and then tie it up?
Yep, sounds good.
Mine is that I'm done for work for the day. I'm very tired. I had a very long, busy day, and I just want to blob.
Mm. Um, my highlight is that lately I've discovered a new game called Schedule One.
Hmm.
It's about making illegal substances
Yeah, I
and
was gonna
selling
say,
them.
just say illegal
Yeah,
substances.
yeah. Um, it's all literally just a game. None of it's real life.
But you're enjoying yourself.
I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying myself.
cool. Bit of a different episode today, but we hope you enjoyed it anyway, and we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah. See ya.